Can the Oklahoma Sooners land the five-star athlete Terry Bussey out of Timpson, Texas? And this is one we got to talk about because after losing the five-star wide receiver Bryant Wesco, it seems like the staffs turned their attention to two targets in particular. One in the four-star wide receiver Zion Raggins out of Georgia, and then the five-star athlete Terry Bussey out of Timpson, Texas, who quite frankly is one of the most impressive kids that I've seen just in terms of stats, but also his film as well. So, guys, before we go ahead and talk into it, go ahead and jump down in the comments below and let me know what y'all's thoughts are. Do you think the Oklahoma Sooners can land the five-star athlete Terry Bussey out of Timpson, Texas, in the place of losing the five-star wide receiver Bryant Wesco? So, Terry Bussey, a 5'10 and a half, 180-pound athlete that a lot of places believe he can play wide receiver for them. And the 247 composite rankings rank the number 15th player nationally. But then in the composite rankings, being the number 28th player nationally, this is a guy Oklahoma really should try to go and land as quick as possible because Terry Bussey is going to be able to bring much needed depth at pretty much many positions. Terry Bussey is a guy that could be placed pretty well anywhere, I believe, into Oklahoma's offense or defense, and he's going to be able to use at a high effective rate. And what I mean by that is when you go look at Terry Bussey's stats, and we've talked about them before, and we're going to look at his career stats overall. When you look at what he's been able to do there, it sounds like Terry Bussey just could be that dude for Oklahoma. And here's what I mean by that. So 215 pass completions out of 328 attempts in his career for 3,885 yards and 48 passing touchdowns. On the rushing side of the ball, he's been able to do 279 attempts for 4,041 yards, rushing for 74 touchdowns. And he played 3 years on the defensive side of the ball on varsity, which was 270 tackles, 4 interception touchdowns, 24 interceptions, 3 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 1 punt return for a touchdown, and 3 kick returns for a touchdown. So here's my deal. I don't care how big of a conference you're playing in as a high schooler, you're putting up those kind of numbers. And yes, you're definitely going to be looked at by, Terry Bussey has over 30 offers and from probably some of the most elite schools within the college football industry. What I mean by that is Texas, Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M. So yes, Terry Bussey has got to be on the top of the board on the offensive side of the ball for this staff, especially now that you've lost Bryant Wesco and you need to be able to go out there and build some more depth around the wide receiver room because I expect Oklahoma is going to have a couple portal entries, and then obviously you have guys that might go to the draft or graduate out of the program. So Oklahoma needs to be able to build some young depth in that room, and I think Terry Bussey can help be the start of that, especially as Oklahoma is going into the SEC. But Terry Bussey, speaking of the SEC, has received many offers outside of just those ones that I've even talked about. Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, Kansas State, Nebraska, Oregon, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas, Tennessee, Texas Tech. So Terry Bussey's services have been wanted by many teams across the country, and that's what should make Oklahoma fans want him even more. When every other school in the country wants him, you want the kid as well. Now, Terry Bussey is a guy that maybe needs to put on a little bit more weight, but he's got a good frame, right? And as you can see in his stats, he's an extremely athletic kid, multi-sport athlete, and he just dominates at the Texas high school level, whether it's at football or whatever sport he tries to play in. But he is a four-sport athlete. He plays basketball, baseball, and he completes in track and field. So Terry Bussey's kind of a guy that can do it all for you. But the thing that really intrigues me here about Terry Bussey and Oklahoma is maybe if you don't get a second quarterback in this class in Emmett Jones, maybe you can go out here and get Terry Bussey who can play wide receiver for you, but you can keep him fresh at the quarterback position because you already know he can play it. And then you've got kind of like 2 scholarships in one, if that makes sense. You kind of know you have a last minute decision to go to if you absolutely need it. But Terry Bussey gives you kind of like a Jeremiah Hall, or not Jeremiah Hall, a Brandon Willis type vibe in terms of just, he's probably going to play on the offense somewhere, but it's not going to be quarterback, but he did play quarterback in high school. So listen, he has played against high caliber opponents across the board in camps And regardless, this guy is a top overall prospect on a lot of people's boards. Biggest problem for Oklahoma is going to be getting across the lines of Texas and Texas A&M. Texas and Texas A&M have pretty appealing pitches. They're closer to home. And so if you're Oklahoma, you have to be able to give a compelling enough pitch to sway Terry Bussey away from wanting to basically stay in state and play with Texas and Texas A&M. It's going to be hard to do. But looking at where Terry Bussey has been on his unofficial visits, he's been to Texas 4 times. So you've got to clearly say Texas is the front runner. But then right behind it is Texas A&M at 3, but they don't have an official visit on the counter. Currently, right now, the only official visits were the Champion Barbecue and Texas on the 23rd, which is this upcoming weekend. So Terry Bussey, very well, Oklahoma could be the leader in that room. But I believe with visits to Texas and potentially Texas A&M coming up on the board, that could potentially change. And again, like I said, with Texas, he's only 225 miles away. A&M, he's only 142 miles away. With Oklahoma, he's 283. So maybe if you're going up, if this is just an Oklahoma-Texas battle, you can make that argument that, hey, there's really only like a 60-mile difference between the two schools. But with Texas A&M, I mean, it's a lot closer. It's a lot closer. But guys, I want to hear from you about Terry Bussey. What's your thoughts about that? But looking at the wide receiver room for Oklahoma, they have Zion Kearney. They have KJ Daniels. They have Doge. And I hope I'm going to end up saying this right because I think I butchered it last time. Ezu Kanamana. And right now, you love what you're seeing from this wide receiver room for Oklahoma. You're seeing a lot of speed, but with Doge Ezu Kanamana, what you're getting is you're getting an extremely physical guy who's not afraid to get in there with the other guys to try to catch the ball, right? Yes, I get it. He's a 3-star athlete and same as KJ Daniels. And I get it. Some of you guys will say Oklahoma is 3-star U. But guess what? Oklahoma can sometimes find guys that are 3 stars, but end the cycle a little higher, or end up developing those 3 stars into NFL caliber players. That's just what Oklahoma does. Now, lastly, on the wide receiver list, you have Zion Raggins, who is from Gray, Georgia. And a lot of people thought, hey, maybe this is a Georgia win. Ultimately, this sounds like Oklahoma is in the driver's seat right now. But Zion Raggins is taking a visit to Florida State where that relationship feels like it's starting to be rekindled again, right? That fire is lit. So we'll have to see if the Zion Raggins recruitment is still leaning Oklahoma here in a couple of weeks. But, I'll have to follow up with you guys that when I get back from the honeymoon. But guys, I want to hear from you. Go ahead, jump down in the comments below. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are about Oklahoma pursuing Terry Bussey. And if you think the Oklahoma Sooners can land the 5-star athlete.